from the way the man spoke, because I watched the video, I listened to it, Aregbesola appears to be one man that is innately bitter, probably about some of the gains recorded under the OYETOLA'S administration. These are gains that the former interior minister had told the whole world were impossible. I recall vividly, as a practicing journalist, then the former governor, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, once told us that it was impossible to pay full salary in Osun without retrenching workers. I recall we took him up over the issue of half salary at the time, and he said it clearly that because of the wage bill, because of the situation of things, that it was practically impossible to pay full salary without sacking workers. But here is a man who came in almost less than 2 years after he made that claim. This man came in, I'm talking of my principal, His Excellency Adegbugbe Oyetola, and he never sacked any worker, yet he was able to pay the same full salary that we were told was impossible in Osun.
All right, Mr.
In spite of the fact that he came...
Please,
yes.
Allow me to butt in. You said earlier that Ogbeni is bitter. I mean, from the video you watched and what you heard of him when he spoke in Elisha some few days back. But one we want to consider, doesn't he have a right to be angry? Because in that particular occasion, he accused your principal of betrayal. Yeah. He said there was an agreement put on the table and your principal reneged on the agreement. So doesn't he have a right to be angry?
Thank you very much. If you have read the statement of the party, you will know clearly that Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola has been economical with the truth. From the statement of the party, which I also read, the party made it abundantly clear that to the best of its knowledge, there was no any agreement that was entered into on August 26, 2021. And as someone who was part of the OYETOLA'S administration, I am aware that indeed the only agreement I know that was reached was the one that was reached on in December 2020. And apart from the fact that even though I wasn't part of the meeting, but I accompanied my principal to Ilarogun, where the meeting held. Where the meeting held. And from the statement of the party, the agreement was very clear. The understanding was clear. One, it was agreed that OYETOLA should be allowed to face governance squarely. Two, that Baba Bisi Akande, His Excellency OYETOLA, His Excellency the former governor Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, the three of them will form an apex body to administer and coordinate the affairs of the party. Three was that OYETOLA will be given automatic ticket for his re-election. And I think from what I read in the statement of the party and from some of the conversations that have happened, but you see, let me say this, and like the party said yesterday, that if you look at those understanding, and if you look at Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola's poster subsequently, you should be able to judge who between the two of them was the betrayer, because I am aware that during the course of the primaries, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola sponsored Adeoti openly against my principal. My principal defeated Adeoti randomly. Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola went to court through proxies, to challenge the nomination of my principal. Apart from that, there were video evidences out there where Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola was singing and dancing that Ohiolei Oyetola lo wala fibole. So These are things that are in the public domain.
All right.
But you see, Aregbesola is fond of playing the victim all the time.
All right.
For me, I have incontrovertible evidence to tell you that Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola is being economical with the truth. And I'll just give you one instance, and I rest my case. When the APC was doing its revalidation exercise, if you recall very well, they started with President Muhammadu Buhari at the time. And once they were done with that of President Muhammadu Buhari, they traveled down to Osun to do that of Baba Bisi Akande. Once they were done with Baba Bisi Akande, they did for my principal, His Excellency OYETOLA'S. And my principal now told the committee that as far as Osun is concerned, the next person to be accorded that privilege was his predecessor, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. And I was in the sitting room with my principal. When he put a call through to Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, it was as if my principal was relaying what transpired to me, because the phone was on speakerphone. I had all the conversation. And my principal told him that, sir, they have done a revalidation exercise for Baba Akande, and I have also done mine. Now, you are the next person. We are looking at Monday. And he quickly interjected to say that Monday was not convenient for him, that the next day too was not convenient for him, because he needed to travel with the then Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, to Ilorin. But
Mr. Omipidan, are you still with us? Okay.
that if my prince make it back, now we waited for him. That 48 hours notice never came. The next thing, I was sitting in the one restaurant in Osogbo one morning when I saw video emanated from Malaysia when Ogbeni Rauf was saying that they didn't want him to do his revalidation exercise, that they were blocking him, and now he has got, you know, and I was like, wait a minute. They have always said that this man is not truthful. And here I am getting a live proof for the first time. So for me, from that day on, if Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, you know, salutes me by saying good morning, I will have to look at my wristwatch very well to be very sure it was indeed in the morning.
Yeah, Mr. Omipidan, these are very strong words, you know, to say that Ogbeni was being economical with the truth and he's a dishonest person. You know, these are the inference from what you're saying. And you said that he sponsored Alhaji Moshood Adeoti, even went to court to challenge the nomination, the candidacy of your principal after the primaries. One would say before that time, things are already degenerated, really, because he said in that video that happened recently in Elisha to say, even when you emerged, your principal, when I mean you, your principal, Ohiolei emerged as the governor, you know, it was an intense battle between the present governor now, who was a candidate of the PDP then, and himself, that your camp was already saying Aregbesola was responsible for making it difficult for your principal to emerge. That because of the salary payment, because of some of these policies, that your camp, the OYETOLA'S camp, accused him of not making them to have a smooth victory. And these are some of the issues. And he was saying that it worked for you. It worked for the success of the party. And that from that time, your camp was already seeing him as enemy. And from that point, the center could not hold again. What will you say to that? Can you hear me, Mr. Omipidan?
If you look at those narratives, I can. Hello?
Okay, please go ahead. Please go ahead, quickly.
Now, if you look at those narratives by Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola are inconsistent with the realities on ground. Because here you are, in one breath, you say you begged OYETOLA'S for 3 years. In another breath, you said the moment they emerged, they were blaming you. You know, so you see, these narratives don't align. But let me tell you what I know. And if you look at the statement of the party also attempted to make that very clear. Now, you are also in Osun. If you were not around before 2018, you can also do your findings. As a journalist, I was in Osun in 2018 to monitor and report the events. And I tell you, I came into Osun on a Wednesday preceding that election. And I came in through a commercial vehicle. If you know Osun very well then, once you are descending that Bangan Bridge, you are going to be bathed by dust up to Odeumu. And honestly speaking, as we were descending that bridge, the passengers in the vehicle began to curse Aregbesola and the APC because of the that road. And I was saying it in my mind then. Mind you, I'm speaking to you as a journalist then, not as a political appointee. And I was saying it in my mind then that, this party will certainly have it difficult making it in this election. So it's not that OYETOLA'S supporters are saying. These are facts that there were certain policies that Osun citizens termed were anti-masses. And so they were willing to visit it on the party. The issue of a single uniform, the issue of half salary, the issue of reclassification of schools, the issue of not having regard for, people. So the party also said it is not about OYETOLA'S supporters saying so. It is a party.
All right, Mr.
And if you look at the result of the election, if you look at the result of the election, in 2018, when Aregbesola was a sitting governor, OYETOLA garnered about 250,000 votes. In 2022, when Aregbesola decided to stay away from OYETOLA garnered 375,000 votes. That is like 120,000 additional votes.
Yeah,
so
Mr. Omipidan,
what does that tell you?
All right. Okay, quickly, if I may, but because we have to go because of time. And as the days rolls by, we'd like to have you for the duration of our program to speak to these issues and governance in Osun State as it is right now, and of course the ministry of your principal, Alhaji Oyetola, talking about the marine and blue economy. But there is this rumor, I call it a rumor, or news that has always been emanating for years, and I'd like you to clarify today, make a huge categorical statement on it. Part of the policy of the former government, in which some persons frowned at, is the half-salary payment of half-salary, the modulated mode of payment. And many persons accused your principal, I'm sure you might have heard it, that particular policy of saying instead of not paying at all, maybe we should pay half-salary, that's formerly known as AFUSA, that was a brainchild of Alhaji Oyetola, who was the chief of staff at that time. Please clarify, was it the one who brought that on board, really?
Thank you very much. One, I want to say categorically that in every administration, in every setting, whether family or individual, there is a head. And the head has a final say in whatever decision. And let me just give you an instance. You are a journalist. I'm a journalist. Before I left the Sun on sabbatical, I was in charge of the political desk. Now, there are certain decisions that I will take without the input of the editor. But then I cannot pass any story without the clearance of the editor. Therefore, if the editor now takes a decision, will you now come to blame me for that decision, knowing fully well that the editor is the one in charge? That is one. Two, if you know the character and personality of Aregbesola very well, if you don't know, go and study and go and find out, go and investigate. Does Aregbesola come across as someone who will allow a subordinate to drive affairs when he's in charge? And so I say it without fear of contradiction.
All right.
That those stories were part of stories being told by Aregbesola just to malign the personality and character of my principal. Because let us even assume it without conceding that he was the brainchild. Assuming without considering.
All right, Mr.
Now,
yeah.
how come he did it differently when he was in charge? Look, when you are in charge of affairs, it is different from when you are answerable to someone. There were so many advices, there were so many decisions that were taken in that administration without my principal's input. So it is not correct to say that half salary was a brainchild of Ohiolei. Those who are saying so are either ignorant of the workings of government, or perhaps they do not know the personality and character of Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Omipidan. Like Femi said, we'll try to bring you back so we can have a robust conversation on these matters. But sincere appreciation to you for coming on board on Morning Spring for today, Mr. Ismail Omipidan, CPS, the former governor, Adegboyega Oyetola. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate, but like I told you, rather than us dwell on individual, let us begin to focus on how the current PDP administration is running Osun State. Because they have given a lot of contracts out without telling us who the contractors are. So let's concern ourselves with some of these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely interrogate these matters.